Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of English in Practice. In a previous episode, I talked about the importance of learning different ways to express a certain meaning, to be able to express this certain meaning in a more accurate way and to avoid repetition. Accordingly, I'll teach you 5 different ways to say I don't like that are more polite. Let's say that you and your friends are trying to think of plans for the weekend. So your friends start suggesting ideas, but you don't really like many things. So the first idea that they suggest for you is to go skiing. But you don't like skiing. In fact, you don't know how to ski. And you want to turn down this idea. You want to tell them that you don't like this idea. But the only way to do that is by saying, I don't like it. That's the only way you know. So you do it. You tell them, I don't like it. But everyone looks at you in an awkward way because you sounded impolite. Luckily for you, I am here to save you from such awkward moments and teach you how to say I don't like it in different ways that are more polite, because you don't want to offend the person who suggested the idea. The first way to say I don't like it or you don't like something is by saying that something is not for you. If something is not for someone, that means it is not interesting for them. They don't like it. They don't find it interesting. When you want to turn down an idea, when you want to express your dislike of an idea, you don't want to be impolite. You want to avoid offending the person who suggested the idea. So how can you do that? Well, let's go back to the example when you and your friends were trying to think of an idea or ideas, what to do on the weekend. The idea of skiing was suggested. Now, instead of saying, I don't like it, you could have said the following sentence: skiing is not for me. In this example, you didn't tell anyone that you don't like their ideas. You basically put the focus on yourself rather than the idea itself. It's like saying that the idea is cool, but the problem is with you rather than the idea itself. Another example can be, this book is not for everyone. That means this book, or not everyone is going to like this book. Not everyone is going to enjoy reading this book. The second way to say that you don't like something is by saying that something is not your thing. If something is not your thing, that means you don't like it. It's like saying something is not for you. But this one is again a more polite way of saying I don't like it. The third way to avoid saying I don't like it is by saying that you are not into something. Let's go back to you and your friends trying to suggest ideas. After you turned down the idea of skiing and bowling, now they suggested a new idea, which is watching a football match. But you don't like football, so you don't like watching football matches. So one way to say that is by saying football, or I'm not into football. So when you say that you're not into football, that means you don't like football. But again, you did not criticize the idea itself. You tried to put the focus on yourself. Another way, which is number 4 on our list for today, is by saying that something doesn't tickle your fancy, or something tickles your fancy. Now, this idiom is used when we talk about things that do or do not interest us. If you like football, you can say something like football tickles my fancy, which means you do like football. You are interested in football. You find it appealing. Now, let's go back to you and your friends. After you turned down all the previous ideas, your friends suggested a new idea. You don't like watching football matches. How about we watch horror movies? But again, you don't like horror movies. So you say something like, I'm sorry guys, horror movies don't tickle my fancy. That means you don't find them interesting. The fifth way to say I don't like it, and it's the last one, is by saying that you're not a big fan of something. Now, if you're a fan of a type of music, for example, that means you like it. If you're not a fan of this type of music, that means you don't like it. So, if we go back to you and your friends, after you refused all the ideas they suggested, you didn't like any idea, now it's the final idea. This idea is going to a Japanese restaurant to have some sushi. But you don't like sushi, so you don't like the whole idea. You want to express your dislike of this idea, but again, you don't want to offend anyone. You don't want to sound impolite. So you can say something like, I'm not a big fan of sushi. That means you don't like sushi. Today we learned 5 different ways to say I don't like it. These different ways are more polite or will help you sound more polite than saying I don't like it, since this sentence, I don't like it, may sound impolite in some situations. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.